welcome to another edition of This Week in Perfect Team, the show that provides immediate community feedback to all new content releases, and we just received a great one tonight. A bunch of community-driven cards, and we're going to break them all down here for you tonight. I'm your host, DRC, and this is episode 30 of This Week in Perfect Team. With me, as always, is your Kidneys. Kidneys, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I think we got some really interesting stuff tonight. Ross Barnes finally makes his long-awaited debut. That Noodles Han is out of this world. Some really cool. There's Tuck Turner. I also want to say, I don't think people listen very well. We're stopping the streaming thing, but y'all are subscribing. I really appreciate the support. You guys have been awesome. We'll get more into that as the stream goes on. I know most of you are just here for the cards and not my beautiful crater face, but we'll get there when we get there.
I'm glad you made mention to it.
Obvious.
But these people are about to make me cry over here. I'm getting a little emotional seeing all this support. Yeah. I can't go soft on you guys here in episode 30, so we better move on. So tonight, we have got a great show for you guys. We definitely want to go out with a bang. So we're going to start with the card rundown. We're going to go through all, 16 community request cards. We're going to hit them all. And then we've got a special OK Zoomer. Oh, excuse me. I've still got it saying OK Zoomer, OK Zoomer. It's actually Boomer, OK Zoomer tonight. This is an artifact of the RDT edition. So apologies here, a little imperfection. But we'll hit that for you guys, and that's going to be a fun one. I guarantee it. And then what we're going to end with is we're going to take a little trip down memory lane. Now, this show wasn't always... They may surprise everyone here, but this show wasn't always this picture of perfection, which we've demonstrated already on our opening slide here with a typo. It wasn't always this good. And we're going to relive some of those moments, some of those bumps and bruises along the way, some of the highlights, and really enjoy it on our way out of here. But before we do get into the cards, I did want to just share a little bit about why. Why are we taking a step back? Is it that we've had a falling out with Out of the Park, or that we don't like the game anymore, or that Chris DMCA'd us because Kidneys continues to use his catchphrase? Now, it is all of those things. No, it is actually none of those things. Kidneys and I still love the game. I was actually looking at my roster before joining on here and wondering why I'm 4 games back of first place and figuring out what I'm going to do next. So it's none of that. It's just that reality has kind of sunken in. And in what is great news for most people, the world is kind of resuming a bit of normalcy. And for me, that normalcy comes with work travel. It comes with longer work hours. And it also comes with kids being back in activities and going to birthday parties and going to soccer and going to dance class and gymnastics. And just the time commitments became such that on a week-to-week basis to have a Thursday clear was a challenge in and of itself. And then the production. I definitely didn't want to ever do this show where it was obvious to you guys that we were just doing it to do it. I always wanted it to be something that had something to it. And so if that wasn't something that we could do, I didn't want to do it. And so that's that. Kidneys, anything you want to add on to that?
No, I think that pretty much sums up how I'm feeling as well. Obviously, I don't have kids yet, but real life is catching up to me. And there's a lot of things that I'm trying to do and get out more and, be with people and see the world almost. So I don't think a lot of people realize how much work, especially you, not really me, but especially you put into this stream, and what a crazy work environment it is to set up this, even at the unprofessional level that I have done it over the past few months when I've hosted with RDT. So it is a huge time commitment. You would not think that throwing together a PowerPoint every week is that big a deal. It's a pretty big deal, especially with the level of quality that DRC puts on for you guys. So
Very good. So let's jump into the cards here. So we're going to start with a little Jesse Orosco. Before I do that, I need to pull up my fun
Oh, I'm gone.
facts. Oh yeah, you're This is how we take out kidneys. This is how it all ends for you.
It was
All
really
right.
just a coup. He just got me to retire, and now he's going to keep doing the
All
show
right,
with
now
RDP.
that kidneys is out of the way, we can get back to business. All right, very good. Let's bring it back in, and poof, reappear, Mr. Kidneys. Well, let's start with Jesse Orosco. So Jesse Orosco, a little fun fact about him is he was the last active Major League Baseball player from the 70s. He outlasted none other than Rickey Henderson for that honor, and he's also the only player in Major League Baseball history with more than 1,200 games pitched. Think about that, 1,200 different Major League games, which, as we know, for players that are working their way up the minor league ladders, for players that aspire to one day be able to get into one major league game, getting to the majors is a near impossibility. Staying in there is that same level of impossibility. And Jesse Orosco, over the course of a very long career, was able to have his manager pick up that bullpen phone and say, I want Jesse 1,200 times. That is a totally insane amount. Now, Kidneys, is this an insane card?
Probably not. The issue is level of play for this card is it's going to be a diamond tournament card, not a low diamond, because low diamond is 94 and below. So even though it's a pretty fun card, and it's kind of borderline Mark Langston's profile, so it's not terrible. You could definitely play him in lower leagues. I know there was a lot of Mets fans very excited to see this card tonight, but that's probably where he's going to be. He's going to be a big one on a theme team, and probably that's it for the level of play.
And for anyone wondering where the card art comes from, what is it that you're seeing here? This isn't an homage to the Boltons in Game of Thrones. This is actually the pose that Jesse Orosco did in 1986, right after he recorded the final out of that World Series. That World Series best known for the ball getting through Buckner in Game 6. Pour one out for the Red Sox fans on the stream here. But Jesse Orosco was the pitcher on the hill in Game 7, recording a strikeout, and immediately upon getting that strikeout, his hands went skyward, he went to his knees, and then he was subsequently mobbed by his teammates.
I figured that's what it was, but I didn't want to look it up because I am a Red Sox fan, and that would be traumatizing.
Next up, we've got Bob Uecker. A card that I have heard be requested a billion times. I think in my first 6 months in the community, I didn't really get it. And then after hanging around a bit longer, I realized it was like half meme and then half cap tourney god that people were searching for. Well, we've got Bob Uecker now. And a fun little fact about Bob Uecker, he definitely had the career of a grinder. So this card that you see in front of you is pretty representative of the career that he had as a baseball player. He was a bad hitting and, frankly, a bad catching journeyman doing his best to hang on to the Major League dream each and every year, similar to what I talked about with Jesse Orosco and what makes him so noteworthy. He was a career 200 hitter, a career 581 OPS hitter, and during his career, which spanned many years, he hit only 14 home runs. However, there was one time that he took Sandy Koufax deep. This Bob Uecker took Sandy Koufax deep. And after the game, the first thing he said to the media was that home run would be the reason that Koufax did not get into the Hall of Fame. Clearly saying it in jest, clearly understanding of the moment and his place in baseball history. And he's certainly been a very celebrated and loved part of the baseball community ever since his playing days, as he has now earned the nickname Mr. Baseball. But what do you think of this Bob Uecker 40 card?
How do you get 54 power with that few career home runs?
Oh, they're just giving away power like candy these days.
That is true. I hate everything about this card. It's a really fun card, but it's also got the terrifying 39 catcher ability, which is bordering on Luke Voigt levels of terrible. Shout out to everybody running Luke Voigt at catcher. You know what you're doing. He is... He's got a lot of pop for an iron card, and I mean, you're going to play him in cap just because he's actually a free card. He's 40 overall. He doesn't cost anything, but I don't want to like this card.
So is this the only 40 catcher card in the game?
I don't actually know that off the top of my head. I'm right now debating whether Jim Unknown would be better than Bob Uecker, and I'm actually kind of on the fence about this one.
Well, can you set your roster so that you actually get a Jim Unknown at the catcher position?
If I just don't fill it, it should happen. If I do 25, 26, it should happen. So.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
fair enough. Maybe with a Jim Unknown, you're going to get 50 catcher ability, and you're going to take that over whatever Euchre's giving you here.
Jim Unknown is completely random. I've literally seen times where he clocks in with 90 power and hits some home runs, and then other times he's like a 10 stat player. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I was just curious if you would actually get the catcher, or if that tourney would just keep throwing out your catcher until they get completely nuked down to 0% fatigue, and then they're just absolutely costing you every game.
People are saying it starts the 0% catcher. Well, maybe I just won't play a catcher then. The biggest brain play.
Big brain play by big brain kidneys. We move on. We've got Pickles Dillhofer. Now, that I did have to confirm was an actual person because I had my doubts. And Pickles Dillhofer, what he's perhaps best known for in baseball lore is being part of the horribly lopsided trade that saw Pickles shipped off to the Phillies and Grover Cleveland Alexander heading back to the Cubs, where he had a very storied career. So Pickles Dillhofer earning that recognition, which is not necessarily a great thing. But this card here, it's another catcher card. This one's a 49, so in a cap tournament, it's going to cost you 9 more. But for that, you're going to get a little bit more catcher ability. You're going to get a ton of Avoid K, and then you're going to end up with a much better BABIP profile. What do you think of Pickles?
I really want to like him because he's got this crazy bat on an iron card that's actually going to be pretty successful in an iron tournament scene. The catcher ability is too low for my taste, and then you have a guy like Athis or Ali Sanchez in an iron scene, right, are going to be your premier catchers because they have the best catcher ability. But in a cap scene, you are shaving off a few points, and he is probably actually going to hit the ball pretty reasonably well. I'm not totally sold, but I'm sure there's a world where this card is very playable in a tournament.
He's sure there's a world. Well, we will continue to look for that world and enjoy at least the name of Pickles Dillhofer, one of the best names that we've got in the game today.
There's a lot of worlds out there, a lot of alternate dimensions. I don't think anyone Hack Wilson makes perfectly again, though. I will say that.
Next up, we've got a 63 Jim Bar card here. Now, Chris was trying his best and succeeding in stealing my thunder. How dare he, on the flagship broadcast here, talk about what Jim Bar is known for, what he went down in the record book for, stealing my fun fact. Well, I'm going to reiterate it for you anyway. In 1972, Jim Bar set a then MLB record by retiring 41 consecutive batters over the course of 2 starts. Now, this was later broken by Bobby Jenks in 2007, by Burley in 2009, and then Yusmeiro Petit in 2014. But Barr is the only one to do it across consecutive appearances. Everyone else needed many appearances. Burley's actually spans across his perfect game. So it started in the start before his perfect game, continued through his perfect game, and then went into the third start after, whereas all the other guys there, Jenks and Petit, both relievers, so 41 batters across a multitude of games. But interesting little tidbit there for Jim Bar. And as we look at this card, it's a low bronze that for a low bronze has a bucket full of movement and control. And this is a starter too. So we're going to have to look at this card through a couple of different lenses, his ability to start or his ability to fit into a bullpen. What do you think?
I think this is the very famous this year bronze Wayne Twitchell, but you flip him upside down. So you swap the stuff in the control, right? And this card is super crazy statted. I don't know how it's a 63. I don't really know the bronze meta. I haven't super played in a while, but I just think there's so many good numbers on this card that it would be very hard not to play him. He's got good stamina for a bronze. He's not going to walk anybody. He's not giving up home runs. Sure, he won't strike out a lot of people, but if you're playing a decent defense, I really think this is probably the card for you.
And I think there's a lot of conditions upon which this card could make a lot of sense for you. Maybe it's a cap build. Maybe you're in perfect draft and you're into the bronze round and you unfortunately still need a starter or frankly still need a reliever. He can really fit into both of those molds. Now, when you get down in this really low stuff world, you kind of can be on a knife's edge there in terms of going too far and giving up too much contact. I don't know that Jim Barr is there, but that would be the one thing to be concerned with. In my early bronze tournament builds, I had a card with a similar profile, and I wouldn't say that it had exactly similar amounts of each of these, but a similar build in terms of being lowest on stuff, scaling up for movement and control, and it ended up getting bumped from the rotation just because it was giving up too much contact, and even though the movement and control was good, it was getting hit more than other options at the time. But just this Jim Barr card definitely warrants keeping an eye on.
Yeah, I think the chat has it right. This card would be nuts if he was a ground ball or a fly ball card. Sadly, he is neither. If he was a ground ball card, that crazy, even though he's going to let up a lot of contact, then it would be, very weak contact. You play a good infield. He's super strong. I still think it's probably good enough that it's going to see play somewhere in your bronze rotation, but.
And that right there is Jim Barr. We move on to Marty Barrett. This is a cool looking card. We'll get into that in just a second. But not before I teach you guys that Marty Barrett played in the longest pro baseball game in baseball history. All levels, all teams, longest in baseball history. It was 1981. It was in the minor leagues. And it was a game between the Pawtucket Red Sox and the Rochester Red Wings. And Barrett was actually the one that ended the game. He scored the run in the bottom of for 10,000 perfect points. Tell me what inning it was.
I think it's already in chat.
Is it? Oh,
it was in chat before you said the answer.
Big Red Fury.
Big Red Fury had it. Yep.
Wow. Okay, well, Big Red Fury preempted the scavenger hunt, but he's still going to get the 10,000 perfect points. So Big Red Fury, kudos to you for either knowing that offhand or being clairvoyant enough to know that's where I was going. But go ahead, DM me your perfect team username with the appropriate capitalization, and we'll get you 10,000 perfect points at the first opportunity here. But 33 innings in a minor league game. Like, can you even imagine? Imagine the beat writers there to cover it. Imagine the umpires. Imagine the coaches. Imagine the bullpens. How on earth can your bullpen throw 33 innings? I'd love to see the box score of that one. I have to imagine that a handful of position players ended up gracing that box score. But yeah, getting back to this card here, we've got a second base only card. It's 58 on defense. It's a bronze card. It's not going to be the best defender you can have at second base, but from a bat perspective, there's a lot to like here. We've got a decent eye for bronze. That's pretty decent eye. And you can go ahead and pair that with elite levels of avoid K and okay contact. That when combined with the very low power, you're going to end up with a decent BABIP. Can this Marty Barrett card carve out position as maybe a DH and backing up second base, or is there a place for this Barrett?
Probably not in a bronze scene. I really want to like this card because that VL bat is just everything I dream of. He's got good contact, low power, really high avoid K. It's just the issue is that he's not going to play defensively, and there's already some really crazy VL bronzes sitting around right now. Like even Jose Martinez, I still think is like the go-to option right now for that. So I'm not sold on playing a single side DH that doesn't really play anywhere in the field personally.
That's a fair complaint, but we love Marty Barrett and we love the Red Sox nonetheless. And as such, I have decided to feature Marty Barrett in our multimedia moment tonight. Let us enjoy.
He
got all of that one.
Field. Back near the wall is Sam.
Oh, no. No, Marty. No, that was a homer. The highlight said home run.
Maybe a home.
Oh, no.
What a play.
Oh, no. That's not what we wanted to show for Marty. Marty wouldn't love to see this. So did you see who robbed him, Kidneys? Do you see who that was?
The title said Ken Griffey. I don't know if it's senior. I assume senior, right?
It is senior, but watch this replay. Look how much If you squint, you see Ken Griffey Jr. right here.
Cannot jump any
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think
play.
I mean, that play is a Ken Griffey Jr. play, but I don't think I've ever seen Ken Griffey Jr. like play a baseball game outside of highlights.
Oh.
I am too young, sir.
Well, Ken Griffey Sr. definitely did play. And there's not a lot of highlights where you watch him and you think like, oh, that's definitely Ken Griffey Jr.'s dad. But this is one of them. I saw this and I was like, oh, wow. Like, clearly less athletic, clearly a corner outfielder instead of an elite center fielder. Not quite as lean and tall. But you can see the skills there, and you can see the aggressiveness to go to the wall, to make the play, steal the home run. Sorry for Marty Barrett. You get the multimedia moment, but it's a negative play, unfortunately.
That field is 312. When I played in high school, now granted, aluminum bats, right? So it's a little different. My poles were 330. Come on, Major League Baseball. You can do better than that.
I kind of like the smaller stadiums. I kind of like the ones with quirky corners like Fenway's pesky pole. Like, love that. Fenway's Green Monster. That's wonderful. Wrigley being really deep down the lines. Atypically deep. It's 355 down one, 356 down the other. Like, I like there being nuance. If they're all cookie cutter, 330 to left, 385 to left center, 400 to center, no thank you.
Well, I like it, but I think the greater point I was trying to make is don't complain about people doing cheese stadiums when they do it in real life. Yeah.
Way to tie
Look at the
it back.
Yankees, my man.
All right, so I feel bad. I was supposed to give Marty Barrett a highlight. I was supposed to commemorate his wonderful play for the Red Sox, and I showed a picture of Ken Griffey robbing a home run of him. So I gave him a second multimedia moment. So we'll go ahead and do that one here.
Boggs to the opposite side, and that's a base hit. Here comes Barrett. The throw from Jackson.
Oh, no! No! He got hosed at the plate! Oh, my. We're 0 for 2.
From getting to the plate as he forced him outside.
We are 0 for 2. So apparently Marty Barrett only exists insofar as he is in other people's highlight reels. I think we're going to have to can the initiative to find a Marty Barrett highlight. Maybe someone else can help us with that, but we are really struggling here. Look at him huffing around third. He thought he had it too. He thought he had it. Look at this. He's like, I'm in. I'm not in. I'm definitely not in.
I played in an online league for a bit in 80s baseball, and I don't remember who I traded for, but I traded Marty Barrett in a big package, I think, for a pitcher. So that's my story.
That's a good Marty Barrett story. It's better than what I have to work with. All I can find are things where he's getting thrown out on the bases or having home runs robbed from him. So we move on, and we've got Marty Cornejo. Ooh, baby, Marty Cornejo. So this is, for anyone wondering, this is the father of Perfect Team God, Nate Cornejo. And Marty was actually drafted 4 different times before he eventually signed with the Mets. He was drafted in the 1970 primary MLB player draft. He was drafted in the 1970 secondary phase. He decided not to sign. He was then drafted in the 1971 draft. Decided not to sign. He was drafted again in the 1973 draft, which was actually his lowest draft position. So the continued rolling of the dice didn't exactly work out for him, but he ended up with the Mets, and he ended up with this super sweet low gold card. Look at this. I mean, we're talking about Perfect Team being the game where movement reigns supreme, and Marty Cornejo has buckets of it. 98 versus right-handed batters, 91 versus left. Is it an all but a certainty that this card is playing and playing big time in bullpens and gold?
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely you have to play this card. You play him with some good defenders in the infield, and this card's nuts. I mean, people have been playing, like Zach Duke and Irv Young in gold, and this card kind of blows them out of the water. I mean, that's almost 100 V right movement. You're not hitting a home run off this card, and I mean, racking 65 stuff and control is also not terrible. I mean, he's going to walk quite a few guys, but really interesting pitcher. Love sinker ball pitchers. I think this is a very cool card. What pitch around slider? None. Don't pitch around with this card. Too low control.
I mean, let's say your main team just had a 21 inning game and your pen is nuked and you have light reserves. How do you feel about throwing Marty Cornejo in there for 5 days. I'm fine with it.
Yes, because he's not going to blow up, right? Because he has the movement of better than most perfect cards, right? I mean, he's not going to let up those home runs that are really going to punish you. So if you need a budget option in your bullpen and you're like a lower down the tier player, I would recommend this card is probably going to do much better than a lot of the other options. So
that is Marty Corneo. We move on to Dave Nilsson. Now, Dave Nilsson, he was the first Australian, the first Aussie to play in the Major League Baseball All-Star Game when he made it in 1999. For 10,000 perfect points, who was the second? Second Australian-born player to play in the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. If you're the first person in the chat with it, then you will be taking home 10,000 perfect points. Let's check if someone's got it. Looks like nobody yet. A lot of Graham Lloyd, Ryan Rowland Smith. Usual suspect. Where is he?
it's a Graham Lloyd.
It's not Graham Lloyd.
Wait till next year throwing out Roscoe. I agree.
And Zenith Television is the first with it. The answer is Grant Balfour. We've got Rob Deere in the headlights just behind, and everyone else questioning Graham Lloyd. Now, if you have an answer or an issue with the answer, Wikipedia is who you are to take it up with. But Zenith Television, go ahead, DM me your perfect team username with the correct capitalization, and 10,000 perfect points will be on its way to you. But let's take a look at this card now. So we've got our third catcher of the evening. And our third catcher with really questionable defense. We've actually got a little bit of catcher ability here at 55. Absolutely no catcher arm. But we're talking about the gold world. We're not really talking about cap tournaments anymore. What do you think of this Nilsson card? Is this going to have some run in some form or fashion?
Probably not. As far as to go, I would rather gamble on iron catchers in perfect draft than probably put this on my team. I think speed... we're seeing kind of a lower, at least at the moment, it's kind of a lower bat power meta compared to last year, right? Where there's only really one or two big options that stand out. And there's so many big base stealing options right now just in the game that this is a card that's just going to get absolutely destroyed on the base paths because catcher arm is not just throwing people out. It's mainly how often they try and steal, right? As well as having kind of lackluster ability and not like some crazy bat. I would probably just avoid this card.
Yeah, I'm with you there. We're in the gold realm here. And so if you're playing this card, you're going to be playing it in a gold tourney because you're not going to be picking this card for a cap tournament. And at the gold level, this defense is just really going to cripple you. And, I am all about picking players based on the sum of their contributions to you. And so if this card was just this insane bat that would absolutely be the best bat in gold, then I'd find a place for him. I'd say, you know what, let's throw him at DH and have him be an emergency catcher. Let's find a way to get the bat in there. So I'm not fully indoctrinated into the catcher defense's life mold, but there's just not enough here for me to want to find a way.
You're still playing Josh Gibson, aren't you?
I am not. I've moved on from Gibby, but he was good. He was good for a period. He wasn't nearly as bad as you made him out to be.
That's pretty terrible. If you're gold, Bismacky's an option. I would play the Cleveland Live Silvers over this one as well if you're in a gold tournament. So
we move on, and here we've got Jason Bay, Canada's darling. No surprise this one was selected for the set, with Canada Day being tomorrow. But did you know that Jason Bay's sister, Lauren Bay Regula, is a pro softball player? She pitched for Team Canada in 2004. She was also on the team in 2008, so some good genes there. Jason Bay. So we've got a short side platoon bat here. Now, someone could pipe into the chat and say that in gold, all the starters are lefties, and that would be news to me, making it a strong side platoon bat. But nevertheless, we've got a card that you don't really want to face right-hand pitching, and that versus left-hand pitching, I don't know that I'm in love either. We've got a big strikeout problem, and counteracting that strikeout problem, I don't have nearly enough quality contact when it is made. I'd love to see the contact be about 20 points higher before I'm spending any time thinking about this card and its bad outfield defense. What say you?
It's a rough one. I only have nightmares of Red Sox Jason Bay every night when I go to sleep, and this isn't much better than that. This is going to strike out way too much. The eye is nice, but it is a little bit of a bird profile VL, and I think it's too close for comfort, coupled with bad defense and not great base running. It's probably going to be an avoid this card for me.
It's a no from me, dog, says Kidneys. And we move on to John Henry Johnson. Now, John Henry Johnson was part of a 5-for-1 trade. So he was one of the 5. A 5-for-1 trade that saw he and 4 of his teammates and $300,000 cash sent to the A's for Vita Blue in 1978. Now, let's talk about this high gold reliever card here. We've got Extreme Flyball Profile. And then we've got a stuff-driven profile as well. A lefty who's got incredible stuff, pretty good movement, but bad control versus lefties. And then versus righties, we kind of take away those compliments that we just gave. The stuff comes down 30 points. The movement comes down 10. And so you're really playing with fire there. What do you think about this card?
Do we get to call him Pop Johnson?
Yeah, you can call him Pop. I authorize it. Only if you hate the card. Only if you hate on it.
Ooh, I like Pop Lloyd though. John Henry. I just can't get on board with the control. I think he's going to walk too much. He doesn't have the super high movement that Cornejo has to supplement it. The stuff is really nice. VL, it's not so great VR. Maybe if you need a super left-handed specialist in gold, maybe. But probably not. I mean, he looks like a baby Sam McDowell to me, and Sam McDowell will probably, only run out of necessity for lefty pitching. So, not really too big of a fan here.
So walk, don't run to the John Henry Johnson store. We move on. Mm-hmm. We've got Tuck Turner. Tuck Turner had an interesting background. So he broke into the majors at 1893 at the age of 20. And so I gave you some air quotes there because he was nowhere near 20. He was actually 26, but it was very common back in those days to lie about your age and lie in the direction of being a younger player. It certainly helped your prospects for playing time and helped your prospects for getting signed. He played in part of a star-studded outfield. So that outfield included Billy Hamilton. We've seen that card in Perfect Team before. It included Ed Delahanty. We've seen that card plenty of times as well as Sam Thompson. And then in the year 1894, all 4 of them hit over 400. All 4 guys on the same team hitting over 400. Now let's talk about this card here. We've got a card that plays every outfield position. Doesn't play any one of them particularly well, but you're probably feeling best in left field here. And then from a bat perspective, we've got like the classic Ichiro PT21 build here. High contact, high avoid, low power, and then cascading gap and eye that's kind of splitting the difference between the two. And we don't really have platoon risk here. It's pretty much the same card both ways. What do you think of Tuck Turner?
This card's nuts for gold. Maybe even for low-level league play. I mean, definitely play him in left field, and the bat is so good both ways. I think it's better than the Ichiro bat of last year, which is crazy, the Diamond Ichiro. I think this card's absolutely nuts. I mean, his contact isn't super high, but it's going to be super consistent with the avoid Ks. And then he's got 60 I too. I mean, it's not a bad clip there at all, and decent base running. So I am very, very on board with playing this card in gold.
So let's say in some world you're not starting this card. Is this not the best ideal backup profile you can have here? A guy who can sit in all 3 outfield positions and back up everybody? And also be a pinch runner for a catcher, say late in the game or something like that?
I think Alec Thomas is probably better for that role because his defense is so absurd and he's fully trained at every position, as well as rocking a pretty great bat both sides. But I mean, you're going to play both these cards for sure, I think. I would be, because I love defense, I'd put like Alec Thomas in right field, Tuck Turner in left, and maybe even Pete Hill in center and run something like that in gold.
Heard it here first.
Mm-hmm.
We move on. We've got Rick Wilkins, which, as I put in the chat of Chris's stream, this was a card I actually requested last year. I didn't know anything about this game yet, But Chris referenced the sign-up form to request cards, and I found it. And then I said, hey, we need a Rick Wilkins one-hit wonder card because he, as Chris said, he perfectly embodies the one-hit wonder. He is a catcher that most non-Cubs fans have probably never heard of. But let me tell you a little fun fact about him and tell you what kind of company he shares, and then you'll share my wonderment here. So he hit 303. So he batted over 300 with 30 home runs in the year 1993. So as a full-time catcher, hitting over 300 and also eclipsing 30 home runs, he became only the fourth member of the 300 or 330 club. The existing four members of that club prior to his entry were Gabby Hartnett, Roy Campanella, and Joe Torre. And then it just so happens that that same season, there was another entrant to that club, a little guy by the name of Mike Piazza. So Rick Wilkins, as a I want to say he was 26 that season that he did that, was sharing company with some of the best catchers of all time. And poof, a year later and the rest of his career, you really didn't hear another peep out of Rick Wilkins. Cubs fans everywhere disappointed, especially this one here that proclaimed that he was the next best thing. So tell me about this Wilkins card.
You think he did roids for 1 year?
I don't know. I mean, early 90s, roids weren't nearly as popular as they were, say, late 90s. I don't know. Sometimes the planets just align for you, and you have a huge year. Like Marwin Gonzalez had that huge year for the Astros. Yep. He was never good outside of that. You had that Brady Anderson, which probably was a steroid-fueled year for the Orioles. Like, sometimes people just have the planets align for them. They pop up 150 crazy games and are never able to live up to it.
Yeah, I mean, I love looking at all the players after the year 2004 who never hit the same again. I don't know, it's just funny to me to see. But this card is a bird profile. I mean, this is a big bird profile. Chat can spam the bird emotes. He's not like horrible, but I wish his arm and his ability were kind of inverted. We get some more catcher defense in there to supplement for the weak bat. I mean, if this card was rocking 90 catcher ability, I would say maybe. He is quite a bit short of that, though.
Quite a bit short indeed, and we're in the low diamond realm now. And when we're talking about low diamond catcher cards, our expectations and our needs and our bar for them to clear, for them to be a roster choice, whether we're talking about a cap tournament, a low diamond tournament, or God forbid a main league play or an open tournament, is just really high. And 58 catcher ability in a vacuum is not going to get that done, and definitely not going to get that done with a platoon bird profile bat.
Absolutely. I mean, especially when you got to live up to the hype that is Charles Johnson and low diamond. It's a very hard place to be. So
we move on, and we have 94 Mark Mulder. So Mark Mulder, this was a fun one to research here. He retired in 2010, but he couldn't stay retired. He just had that competitive itch. And for anyone who played baseball growing up like I did, I completely understand what he's going through. Like, it's very difficult to, outside the competitive baseball world, scratch that itch, going into a profession or doing this or that or the other. And so Mark Mulder in 2014 said, I'm coming back. I'm going to play baseball again. And he got himself in good shape. He got his arm healthy. And then, wouldn't you know it, on the second day of spring training, he popped his Achilles, and it was never meant to be. But that itch didn't go away. He just found a different way to scratch it. He took up golf. And he became really darn good at it. In 2015, he played in what is considered like the premier celebrity golf tournament. It's called the American Century Championship. First time he had ever played in it, and he won it. Mark Mulder picked up his golf clubs, went out, won a big competitive tournament. And then so he decided to play the next year. Won it again. Back-to-back champion, 2015, 2016. Decided to play for a third year, and he won it again. So 3 consecutive years, Mark Mulder wins the Celebrity American Century Championship. He did end up going on and playing within a PGA Tour event a year later. Didn't have nearly the same success in it. But Mark Mulder and a lot of these professional athletes, they just have that competitive gene and that ability to perform on big stages in big ways. And he definitely proved that after his playing year. So what do you think of this Mulder card as a low diamond?
quite like this card as a lefty. It is a little weak VR, more maybe representative of a gold card there, but its VL is pretty strong. I'm sure chat would know a little bit better than me. I have not touched Low Diamond at all. It's one of the few tournaments I haven't touched. Whether he'd be good or not, I know RDT would know instantly off the top of his head. But I like it. I think it could be totally in consideration. A little bit of a slower pitcher, but got ground ball, got good stamina, pretty nice VL split. RDT claiming he knows nothing, being humble as always. But no, I think this card's pretty cool. If not, it's a pretty solid Low Diamond, even if it doesn't make tournament play. So,
And that right there is Mark Mulder. We move on to Willie McGee, one of the more handsome fellows to ever grace the baseball diamond. Did you know that in the 1982 World Series, Willie McGee, he was a rookie for the St. Louis Cardinals, and he had just finished a season in which he had played full time, and he hit 4 home runs over the course of the whole season. He was a slap hitter. If I had a multimedia moment for Willie McGee, you would look at his swing and think, okay, that dude's not going to hit for power. So he hits 4 home runs in the regular season, gets to the World Series, and in a single game of the World Series, I want to say it was Game 3, he hits 2 over-the-fence home runs, in addition to robbing a home run in the field. So 2 home runs with the bat, stealing 1 home run with the glove. Definitely the MVP of that game, and one of the critical players towards elevating the St. Louis Cardinals to, and I begrudgingly even acknowledge this, to their World Series victory in 1982. A very difficult player to play against, as he was trouble on the bases, he was tough to strike out, and he was a good defender as well. But what do you think of this high diamond Willie McGee card?
I like Rich saying in chat that Willie McGee tortured young him in 1985. That's got to be brutal. I mean, this is a cool card. It is super high in BABIP with that crazy contact and kind of the lower avoid K in power. It's kind of a baby Lou Brock almost in a sense. The issue is this card is not quite a center fielder, and he's not really a good base stealer either because the speed is so much higher than the stealing and the base running, which means your aggressiveness is just too much. It's hard to mitigate that. But the contact is going to be there on this card. I mean, this card is going to probably very easily hit 300 at lower levels of play. So maybe it's something if you pick up when you're just starting out in the game, you could play this card and probably do pretty well with it in center field as an upgrade on the Dykstra you get, but probably not something for high level or diamond level play.
I think the Cardinal fans in the chat are having a little bit too much fun for my liking. We've got B-Phil really enjoying what's going on right now. We've got Mac Taters pointing out other successes here. So I think it behooves us all to quickly accelerate here past and through this Willie McGee card. And as we do so, we find Chris Short. Now, Chris Short, here's a fun little tidbit here. On October 2nd, in 1965, Chris Short threw 15 shutout innings against Rich's Mets. He struck out 18 batters, only to receive a no decision. The game would end up a 0-0 tie after 18 innings. I'm not sure if they called it on account of darkness, on an account of ridiculousness. I don't know what the deal was. But Chris Short put in 15 shutout innings of ball, striking out Met after Met, and no one could score any runs. And so the game was just called. But as we look at this card here, it's another starter. It's got ridiculous hold runner capability, so maybe we can find a way to weaponize that. I say tongue-in-cheek. But what do you think of this Chris Short card?
What it sounds like, DRC, is the Mets were DeGromming pitchers before DeGrom was even born.
The Mets have patented DeGromming.
Shout out for DeGrom for being absolutely ridiculous. This card, though, I think he'd fall a little short for me. No pun intended, but there it is. And just quite a little bit understated for a 97. I think a lot of his rating went into that hold runners. And while it matters a bit, it doesn't matter that much. So a little bit low on control and movement and stuff, really, for a 97 to compete in diamond level play somewhere.
So that right there is Chris Short. Moving on, we've got Ross Barnes. I feel like I need to play some fireworks here. Do I have them handy? There we go. We finally got the Ross Barnes that was much awaited. Now, I don't really know where the Ross Barnes train started, the hype train started. I know where the Mamie Johnson hype train started, but I don't know the Ross Barnes hype train. But I hope that those that were so eager to get their Ross Barnes now have him and are satiated here. But as we look at this card, and before we do that, I can't forget to get to my fun fact here. And this is actually the longest one of the night, so strap in here. So this was a wild story. Let me share this with you guys. So Ross Barnes dominated on the Boston Red Stockings teams from the day the National Association was formed. So the National Association was a predecessor of the National League. It was called the National Association. However, in late 1875, Ross Barnes and a number of his teammates had actually signed contracts for the following season to go play for the Chicago White Stockings, something that was relatively unprecedented at the time. And given that there was a number of Red Stockings players doing it, this was not received very well. So word got out within Boston, and Boston fans were absolutely livid. They called these players, Ross Barnes and those that signed with him, seceders, which might not sound like much of an insult now, but this was an homage to the Civil War that, oh, by the way, had just ended 10 years prior. So that was probably a hotter burn in 1875 than it is today. The National Association was going to void the signings. They weren't going to let it happen. But to prevent it, Chicago's team owner, William Hulbert, beat him to the punch. What did he do? He formed the National League. He formed a new baseball league before the signings could be nullified, and this was the first domino to the National Association folding and the creation and thus the storied history of the National League starting. So Ross Barnes is right at the center of the creation of the National League that we know today.
Wow.
So I'll take a breath there. Why don't you tell me about this card?
Also, shout out to West. It was West who's been doing the Ross Barnes craze for as long as I can remember. Ross Barnes is insane. I mean, he only played, I think, 6 or 7 years, but I think he hit 400 in 3 or 4 of them. Just absolutely ridiculous numbers. And this card lives up to it. That bat is absolutely insane. I mean, crazy contact, going to go with the Great Avoid K, and then he's going to walk too, with solid gap and power. The issue with the card, if I'm going to be critical with it, and I don't really want to be because it's Ross Barnes, it's so much fun to have him, is the defense is a little low. He really is going to be probably the best of the B-tier second baseman. I know West is going to DH him. I know probably a lot of people are going to DH him because it's Ross Barnes and he's really cool. But yeah, I mean, crazy right-handed hitter that, you know, is going to be a huge add to any lineup. I think there's a dead ball tournament, right? This is going to play in that for sure.
So let's talk about this for a second. So you're saying that those that are going to get their hands on them are going to be looking at DH. Now, tell me about this really being a unique application of a DH. So I agree with you that the defense is short of the standard that we've set for second base and shortstop in main league play. And we're talking about a 100 rated card here, so we're definitely judging by that ruler. Now, if you have a DH who has this stock defense, does that give you options to have him on your depth chart to be DHing every day that he can, but then your shortstop gets tired, your second baseman gets tired? Does having that as a defensive profile increase the overall utility of this card, or because of where it is from a backup card defensive rating, you're not thinking of it in that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good question that a lot of people don't realize, that just because the card plays a position doesn't mean it should ever hit the field at that position. And for me, if I'm thinking the highest level of play, right, this card should never hit second base or especially shortstop because of how weak those defensive ratings are and how much of a detriment it's going to be. So really crazy bat, and I'm sure we'll see people play him as a DH. I mean, I would probably play him as a DH in my team, but I don't think I will ever, or if I had the card, I would ever put him in the field, because you really want your backups to be guys that can start at that position. If they're not at least kind of startable at that position, it really doesn't matter.
Let me take a quick second and just recognize all of the love and support that we're getting in the chat. It really is warming the heart over here. I know we called out those that were with us at the top of the broadcast and starting up that hype train, but since then we've had a number of folks subscribe, make some bit donations, and that really is just it's much appreciated. So Sean Paxler, we've got Good Genius coloring up the chat right now. So you guys are awesome, and you make this all possible. So I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
We move on from Ross Barnes, and we get to Noodles Hahn. Holy cow, Noodles Hahn! Look at this card. Now, anyone who played PT21 knows that Noodles Hahn was a very rare, very sought-after tournament special edition card. One that almost became pivotal towards being able to run the lefty cheese build late in the game cycle. And these were going for very hefty prices in the auction house for teams that were at the very highest level wanting to do a build like that. Even for those wanting to run a neutral build, Noodles Hahn was one of the best lefty pitchers in the game. Now we've got a Noodles Hahn this game. Why don't you tell me how this one compares to the one that we got last year, both in terms of back of card rating and in terms of how you anticipate him being used and him having an impact on the overall meta?
Yeah, I mean, this is a card. It's already been pulled, by the way. I think it's up for $1.5 million. I'd be actually pretty surprised if it doesn't sell at that. This card's insane. Off the top of my head, no spreadsheet, no analysis, just looking at big blue numbers, I would say this is probably the best pitcher in the game, especially so because left-handed pitching is so coveted right now. This is Tom Glavine with a huge stuff boost, 111 stamina. I mean, this card is crazy. I love it. Fun fact, last year I came 2 runs in a Game 7 in the finals to win a Noodles Hahn, and I lost by 2 runs.
Pour one out for kidneys in the chat.
I mean, that was at that point, and probably still is at this point, $1 million card. Just crazy. I mean, like you said, this card is Lefty Cheese has been super successful in Perfect League with some really weird needed to be played in it. This card is going to take that to another level, I think.
I think Wait Till Next Year has a good comment in the chat here. He's saying that the weak side here, meaning his versus right-handed batter side, is a rich man's Mackenzie Gore. So we got Gore, and from the stats that we've seen in Perfect League, Mackenzie Gore is standing out as a lefty you can get away with, but one that is not thriving. And this card is just going to be across the board better than that against right-handed batters. And frankly, for a left-handed starter, you're going to face a majority of right-handed batters, even if you're having an opener open the game for you, because the current meta and the current build has a ton of switch hitters. So even if you do what you need to do to get a bunch of lefties into the lineup, they're still going to be surrounded by your Tim Raineses, by your Dave Bancrofts. So the right side of this card is really going to play a lot more than the left side of this card, and I still think it's going to hold up well. I would probably stop short of calling it the best pitcher in the game, because I still think that lefties have a much harder path to traverse to dominance in Perfect Team than righties do, and so I think that he'll probably settle in around where we have Royce and Glavine now, but it's definitely a must-have card and a welcome addition to the overall landscape. You know, I know that people are looking for more lefties. People are looking for more of this and more of that. And with the more of this and that, you're able to have more nuanced builds. You can have a lefty build, a righty build, a switch hitter build, a stolen bases build, a defense build. And I think this addition to the meta is going to help foster that. And so I really like this card being in the game. I really like this card being an option for people that pull it, for people that invest into it. And I think it's going to be impactful the rest of the way.
I'm going to say, if I have a lefty cheese park, right? Even if I had a righty cheese park, and let's say I have the option to be a lefty cheese park. In a lefty cheese park, there is no card in the game I would rather have this card on the mound other than. And I would challenge any hitter in a lefty cheese park to stand a chance against this guy, because I don't think it's going to happen. I think Pete Rose hitting right in a lefty cheese park against that VR profile is going to get demolished. That's my that's my opinion on it. I think this card is out of this world.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because we talked about the switch hitters, and the switch hitters in a park like that can really be self-sabotaging almost. So you say someone like Pete Rose, who if he's in a 1.1 average and home run lefty park, then has to cross over and bat right-handed and go to the .9.9. Like, he'd be much better off just trying to hit through the same side matchup in this fictitious world where that was a thing that Pete Rose ever did. But you know, that Noodles Hahn facing right-handed batters is actually what you want in that ballpark, and I think these ratings are going to hold up well with it.
Absolutely.
So that is Noodles Hahn. Now, a quick little fun fact about him. So Hahn completed veterinary school while he was playing for the Reds. So play baseball by day, go to veterinary school by night. And immediately upon the conclusion of his baseball career, he went to work for the government as a meat inspector. That being said, his ties to the Reds organization did not cease. Didn't even come close to ceasing. He ended up working out and hanging around with the team until he was 70 years old. He played as a young man, and then for the next 40 plus years, he was a staple at the facility with the team. He was just kind of a guy who was always around. And it was said that in his latter years when he was doing that some people thought he was just like a ball boy. They thought he was just some guy hanging around because he wasn't someone walking around puffing out his chest and elbow saying, "Hey, I'm Noodles Hahn. I made this town. I'm a big ball player." No, he was apparently just a very quiet, reserved person who just liked to be around the team, be around the game, be around the sport, and just really wanted to fit in. It was hard to get him to actually talk about his playing days, and so many of the players later on didn't even know he was a player. Noodles Hahn, everyone. We move on, and we've got Johnny Sane. So this is not part of the show, but I feel compelled to do it. It kind of fits into the motif of our old "Okay Boomer, Okay Zoomer," but I want you to finish this saying. Spawn and Sane pray for...
Rain?
Hey, kidneys!
I'm going to be honest, when this card was put up, I saw that in Twitch chat. And,
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, in Chris's stream. But I mean, it was rain or pain, right? It was one of the two. So
there you go. Well done. So the thing was that the team had two good starters, Warren Spahn, Johnny Sane, and not a whole lot else. So you wanted Spahn to go game one, you wanted Sane to go the next day, and then you were hoping for a couple rainouts so that you can get Spahn back on the hill. I don't know why I felt compelled to do that, but I did. So a couple fun facts about Johnny Sane. He was kind of he was special in a couple of different ways. He was the first pitcher ever to face Jackie Robinson in the major leagues. And concurrently, he was also the last pitcher ever to face Babe Ruth. So the last at-bat Babe Ruth ever took was at a benefit game for the Red Cross. And in his last plate appearance, it was Johnny Sane on the mound opposite him. So Jackie Robinson's first plate appearance, Babe Ruth's last. So as we talk about this card here, we've got another starter, fly ball profile. We're back in the low movement world, and these low movement guys have really had a hard time sticking in main league lineups. What do you think of this Sane card?
I think it's just not good enough. It's still very good, right? Like, this is a card that, you know, if you're not perfect league, you can certainly play this card and do well with. The issue is he doesn't quite, in my opinion, have the control for the pitch around to make up for the movement. I would like a little bit more control because I think Robin Roberts and Schoolboy are such outliers that they can do that with their 100+ control. So this card is kind of a lot like Mackenzie Gore, I think. And I think it's probably going to be a little bit of a similar result, but a right-handed starting pitcher is a much more crowded position. So this is probably like a back of the bullpen guy right now, is probably where I would put him.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So I was going to say that if I pulled him immediately following this stream, the first thing I would do is sell him. But if I couldn't sell him, if he came to me as a locked card, then I would probably rotate him into my bullpen when my primary guys, when my full health, full stamina guys are tired. I've got that 15-inning game that precedes a 6-game homestand. and I'm not going to get any off days to get some rest there. Maybe I pop out Johnny Cueto, I pop in a Johnny Sane, try to pick up a couple inning relief appearance, save the rest of the pen, and then look forward to my first opportunity to get him out of that pen. That's really where I see this card fitting in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is in the rotation of players you use in your staff, right? He's not a mainstay card for sure.
I mean, look at that batting profile, 47 contact, 7 power. Are you curious about the avoid Ks?
I am. I think Sane was a good hitter last year. There's been a lot of pitchers recently that have been coming with like a 50 contact, low power, 40 to 50 avoid K that are surprisingly good hitters, probably in perfect drafts. So keep an eye out for that.
Moving on from Johnny Sane, as we recognize Matheos42 with a little support in the chat. Thank you very much. And that is the content set. Now, in my haste to produce this, I never asked you for your favorite card, and I never declared mine. I will give you the opportunity to do that now. Which of these wonderful, community-driven 16 cards is your favorite this evening?
Gut feeling right now, in the moment, Noodles Han, because I kind of could go for pasta.
Well, I mean, eating on a stream is not foreign to you. We've seen you down the granola bars from time to time. Now, I know I can't talk. I am notorious for taking long drags of my Cubs cup here of water every stream. But that one time, I think it was the Negro League set that we were doing, that you were just hammering away at that granola bar in between talking about Rube Foster.
I think it was the Build a Legend 90 cards. That was like the 2.5 hour stream.
Yes.
And it was an M&M cookie from Panera Bread.
That's
Very
what it
cookie.
was. Wasn't a granola bar.
Sir.
Good memory. I was actually looking for that highlight to put into the second half of the stream. Couldn't find it, so I should have asked you earlier. My favorite card, I think I'm between Marty Cornejo and Tuck Turner. I think it's Cornejo because he's just a crazy movement card. One of the things that I said on a prior stream is that I like the freaky cards. I like the weird cards, that their weirdness can contribute to their overall utility. That Cornejo is a guy who was like, man, I don't know how he got a sub-4 ERA in Major League play, but he just did. And maybe he's the type of card that can do that, while I recognize Tuck Turner's wonderful utility, having stock defense in all 3 outfield positions, and then a very balanced bat profile that really works well with the game engine. Uh-oh. It's time. It's time, kidneys. It's time for the final one. Okay, Boomer. Okay, Zoomer. The show that pits an old bald guy versus a young Boomer? Zoomer.
Sure.
Whatever.
Zoomer.
All right.
We'll get there.
So, tonight, our category is amazing Twitch shows. Incredible and amazing Twitch shows. So what could we be talking about here? Let's get into it. So I will be representing the original gangsta version. You will be representing the new hotness. Now, what does that mean? That means that I'm standing for This Week in Perfect team, and you are fighting on behalf of the honor of This Week in Perfect team. As my guest, as always, you earn the option. You get to choose whether you go first and land the first volleys, the first blows, or whether you go second. What is your choice this evening?
I'll go first.
All right, let me give you a beat here. There you go. Beat has been dropped.
Even though I can't hear it. Let's go. I think the show with the host that's okay enough to admit that he should just fully shave his head and go bald is the one with the winning line here. Couple that with the kid with the great hair and the amazing mustache. And I think you have a winning duo, something that you can bounce back and forth. It's not Chris in the chat. It's Chris and Ben, right? So you're back and forth. We got some hot topics, some cards. We get the memes in there. We got the meme cards too, directed from Chris, but we got some really spicy memes, all the legendary stuff that Swecky produced for us. And we got stuff like this, where we get to have battles about ridiculous stuff. And also, I have the best tagline in esports, so I'm gonna stick with that.
and that tagline is what? Keep swinging for the
Keep
fences.
swinging for the fences.
He won't quit with it. All right, kidneys. Let me tell you why you're wrong. Chris Jardine, he is really the straw that stirs the out of the park perfect team drink. He drives the meta every Thursday in and Thursday out. The game evolves as Chris pushes us to evolve it. Jardine is the face of the franchise as much as he continues to deny it. He is the Colossus of card reveals. He is the Sultan of salty chat interaction. He is the great Jardino. And what are we, kidneys? Well, you and I both know that OG versions are almost always better than whatever comes after them. And if you have two shows and one show is based on the other show, how can the show based on the original content be better? It doesn't take a bald Captain Obvious and a kid number cruncher to know what colors are good on the back of these cards. So those are the arguments. Let me pop open the poll. It'll run for a minute. But who argued their case better? Was it Kidneys arguing on behalf of the new hotness? Or was it me arguing on behalf of the OG? You know, one of the bullet points that I wanted to throw in here that I absolutely should have landed is we're in our 30th episode. You know how many episodes Chris has done? Was it 123? 127?
Something crazy like that, yeah.
Yeah. So we're sitting here waxing poetic about doing 30 shows, and he's over there laughing. He's like that meme, like the one, we'll see it later on in the stream here, but where you're screaming and he's just the cat over there releasing cool cards.
I mean, this is, I'm gonna be real here for a second. I mean, there isn't our show without what Chris has done over the past few years and what he's put out for the community and the content he's done and everything like that. So a real big thank you to Chris for everything he's done. I mean, I think, he's a guy who, runs his mouth a little bit and he gets, feisty and he stands up for what he believes in. But he is really, like you said, I think the face of this franchise. And so I am more than happy to concede defeat here to Jardine. So
let's be real here. So at some point last year, after I bugged Rich to talk to me about this crazy idea that I had, and I was like, hey, what about if we go on after Chris and we talk about all the cards? And then at some point, Rich had to go to Chris and be like, hey, Rich, DRC, who's a guy you probably haven't really heard of much, wants to come on and judge all of your work immediately after you release it. Like, what? How generous and nice is Chris to have not laughed Rich out of his virtual office at that point and said, why on earth would I have any interest in this? Why would we support this sort of crazy endeavor? But I'm so glad that he did, because having Chris's support and buy-in to this show, and every single time, every single Thursday, Chris is like, stick around, see what these guys have to say. And sometimes we are not saying the most glowing things about the ratings on the back of the cards, and some of the cards we've said that today. But I think that it always worked in tandem, and I think that Chris felt that way too. And I'm so glad that all the pieces that needed to come together did come together so that we could do it. But there is no this week in Perfect Team without This Week in Perfect Team. And I think it's a testament to what Chris has built, both from a consistency perspective, being able to run this show for 120 plus episodes, which you and I are now learning is really freaking difficult when you're not in the grips of a worldwide global pandemic. But
oh man,
yeah, it's awesome. So I'm glad that the OG version won tonight.
Mm-hmm. I like to see us as a team. We have a little group chat that Chris started where we talk about some of the stuff going on with both shows, and it was as much as we jest, and we're doing this versus that, because I had a funny idea to come up with tonight to do one show versus the other. Yes, RDT's not in the group chat. You never made it in there, buddy. Sorry. it's been a really, really great pleasure to work with you, Chris. And it's been so cool to just get to do this, and I'm getting emotional already, and I got to save it for the end. So I'll keep moving on.
So that concludes tonight's edition of OK Boomer, OK Zoomer. A DRC victory. I can't imagine a better way to go out. It wasn't even that close. It really wasn't that close.
No, yeah, you killed me. But what's new, right? So.
All right, so now we're going to transition the show. So the content is done. OK Boomer, OK Zoomer is done. And now we're going to take a walk down This Week in Perfect Team memory lane. And being completely frank here, I don't have a bunch of talking points. I in fact have no notes for this section here. So it's a little atypical for me, but I'm hoping to pick out a couple of the fun moments we've had and just have some fun chit-chatting. So let's do it. So let's go all the way back to episode 1. So Chris is, as I mentioned, so generous enough to be like, yeah, Rich, let's do this. This sounds like something that might not be horrible. Takes a chance on us. And then this is what we reward him with. We reward him with kidneys calling from the literal moon. Well, let's pull your kidneys in now. So kidneys, what does your regression model say about Hank and really how... Hold on, let me turn the volume up a little bit. Competitive he's going to be.
I really like this card.
There's no way you guys can hear that.
Oh my gosh. Man. And was that... We were playing the audio through your speakers, right? Back into your microphone is what we ended up doing because we couldn't get the audio capture to work.
That is what we ended up doing.
Didn't we have it work in test practice, but then it didn't work on air? And so we were literally playing the audio through his speakers into his microphones. It's crazy that we got a second show out of that.
Yeah, so sound checks, which for our first show, I want to say we sound checked like 2 hours early because we were scared to death. We didn't know what we were doing. And we just wanted to make sure it would work. And soundcheck was perfect. We recorded some videos. We actually reviewed some cards and recorded them to see how stupid we sounded while reviewing these cards, and took some notes from our first draft efforts at it. And everything was perfect. And then we get live, and no one can hear Kidneys. And so we had to scramble in the moment. I went ahead and blasted Kidneys' voice through my speakers here and had that feed into my microphone. And the end result was Kidneys sounding like he was from another dimension. Can we, using Rich's term here, can we get a professional in here? Because we definitely didn't have one episode 1. Let's move on. And as what I've got here for all of our transitions from one bullet to the next is memory lane transitions. And just about all of these, I think every single one of them was created by Swecky Ox. So this is where I'll call him out. I'll call him out later here tonight too. So Swecky Ox, and maybe Ben, you can give the background on him. But Swecky Ox, out of the goodness of his heart, just started building memes. He's like, hey, Ben, this would be funny. Hey, send this to DRC, see what he thinks. And it became a huge part of the show and something that I was so appreciative of. And he just really became that silent third partner. But why don't you tell the story of Swecky and how the memes started coming to be?
Swecky is a really old friend of mine. I've known him since I was like 10 years old. And we're still in touch. That whole group of friends, the homeschooling group of friends that I knew, we still get together. We're all still in the same area and we hang out all the time. A lot of these memes were... it started as me just wishfully thinking like, I wish I could do this thing. I don't know how to use software that does this thing. And Swecky, when I started streaming on my own and everything, he started getting into helping me build my stream deck and everything and making that all work together. And so he just kind of started learning graphical stuff literally to help me out. And just amazing stuff he did to learn to be able to do stuff like this for the stream. yeah, I mean, I would just come to him and be like, can you make this an idea? Can you put my head on this and Chris's head on that and DRC's head on this? And can we do a thing? And he would always make it happen. I mean, just such a great friend that I can count on for that. So much love to Swecky.
Much love to Swecky as we move on to our memory lane here. So we had the advent of the DRC and Kidney Faves, where every content set, we would pick out what our favorite card was, and sometimes it was the best card. I'd say more frequently, it was not the best card. It was a card that we had some personal connection to. I know I grabbed a Mark Grace one time. I know that I picked a Shane Bieber one time. The Shane Bieber ended up being a really good card late meta for PT21, and I don't know that I definitely didn't pick him because I thought he was this meta stalwart, but because he was a player that I've got a personal connection to, and so I picked that one. Now, as you look back at all the different faves that you had from streams past, do any of them stick out to you?
I mean, it's got to be Andrelton Simmons. Chris making one of my dream cards come true, and him living up to the hype. I know he's kind of considered a little bit worse than Dave Bancroft is nowadays, but just to get a card that really represents what a crazy underrated player he is in the game, hopefully just spreads awareness to how awesome of a dude that guy is on the field. He is absolutely nuts. So really hyped about that one.
So after the advent of the faves, we created a new game. So the first 3 episodes didn't have a lot of flair to them. It was a bunch of dry content review, dry back a card rating review. But then episode 4, there was a new idea, and I'll tell you exactly where the new idea came from. It came from Free Dave Brown, pour one out for him, and it also came from Nosy Kyle, and it was within the DLL chat where they were bouncing around ideas on ways that we could break up the dryness of the show. That, if we're talking for an hour and a half about card ratings, maybe there's something fun that can happen in the middle. And I can't remember which one of them birthed the idea, but they kept going back and forth and building upon it, and eventually creating what became OK Boomer, OK Zoomer. So why don't we watch a little bit of the first ever and issue one thing that we want to be cognizant of is that we're taking you guys on a journey here that's kind of data heavy. We're digging into spreadsheets. We're looking at similarity tables. We're talking about baseball players. Really we're really grinding numbers.
Yeah, I mean,
so what we wanted to do
the webcam,
is just kind of infuse a little moment to catch our breath, a little moment to have a little bit of fun before we move on to the second half when we get into what we believe are the perfect rosters. So without further ado, let's play our favorite game show, OK Boomer, OK Zoomer. I can't believe I was trotting out that favorite game show line from episode 1. And the concept here is I'm going to share with Kidneys, our resident Zoomer,
it is the
3 things from the 90s. And he's going to need to figure out what they are. He's going to try his hand to figure out what these things even are. And then what I'm going to have to do is look at one of his Zoomer memes and try to make sense of it. So let's get started. So, Mr. Zoomer, what are
I really
thought
I
was going to nail you on this one. And then I was going to make you feel silly for PogChamp.
So I actually know this one.
I knew the
this
context.
One
I know
I
the
cheated,
lore behind
and I
memes,
saw it by accident in the slides. But
You're too
these, if I
researched.
believe, are called Pogs. And I believe they are what the name of the emote PogChamp comes from. The guy got his name
nailing this right on the
from
head.
being the champion of playing Pogs, if I know my lore correctly.
So it is Pogs, and I have always wondered why Zoomers put Pog into a champ, or what the emote PogChamp even meant. So you're actually teaching me some here. I think you get some bonus points for not only identifying it, but answering a question that I had. But this was a silly game that was played in the 90s. I played for a short bit as a kid with my younger brothers, where you stack up a bunch of no one judge me. Crappy little cardboard discs. You throw a slammer off of it, and then based on which one's laying up or laying down, you get to keep some. It was a really silly little phase that didn't last all that long, but I'm very impressed that you're able to identify it. So moving on. Now, what incredible 90s TV show is this the ultimate final scene from?
I mean,
You went too
I'm
easy.
No
young.
spoilers in the
Will Smith,
chat,
man.
Dish. Don't look in the chat, kidneys. I really
But
thought you
I
weren't going to
mean,
get
I
this
know the
one
Fresh
either
Prince of
because I
Bel-Air.
figured
Really?
your Will Smith experience would have been like
Oh.
Independence
Wow,
I'm surprised.
Day,
Have you seen that movie, show,
or
and,
have
like,
you
I
later
have
just
not
seen
seen the
this
stuff? I
show,
figured
but
this
I
was
mean,
just
I know
before
in
your
West
time.
Philadelphia, born and raised. So.
I don't really
Wow,
watch
2 for 2. Who could have guessed?
too much like modern action
Kidneys coming
movies,
out
so
really strong
I've seen
tonight.
enough. I mean, there's a lot of memes from Fresh
Last,
Prince, right?
the last
So I've
test
seen a
for
lot of
you.
that, and then
What band
Will
released their
Smith to
hit
me is
song
like Men in Black. I think.
Bop? Yep.
This one I had
Oh,
no
I
idea.
have no idea.
This one
I know
stumped you good.
absolutely nothing about 90s music.
For the record, those are 3 boys on the screen. I felt like I had to clarify that point.
I know nothing about 3 redheads on my screen.
All right. Well, you have to settle for 2 for 3, but that's still very well done.
Got it.
The band was called Hanson.
And it wasn't music.
I don't know that they ever had another song that made any sort of dent.
Oh, I know the song now, but I don't know the band. Not aware of them.
Would
I'd
you
really
care to
love
sing
it
it
if you
for
would
us?
sing the song.
No, I
Kidneys.
am not
I
singing.
think people
for
here
you.
would love it too.
All right, moving
my
on.
brother once told
So
me in
I have
93
not
that those
seen
girls
this
are hot.
meme yet, and I'm more than a little nervous.
Oh,
But let's
boy.
unveil it and then try to walk through what it is.
Hey, Walnut.
So Kidney's face is blocking some of
what's
the
going on,
text here.
Walnut?
It says it's free real estate.
Oh, this is my favorite. This
It's
is
got
still
the
my
Google
favorite meme of all
Chrome
time.
icon over a face that I don't recognize. So basically, it's like every Zoomer meme I've ever bumped into that has no comedic value on its surface and requires the thorough and deep explanation.
That was my not so
boy.
subtle dig at Zoomer memes.
I don't even know where to start with this. It's free real estate. Google Chrome. I think I'm going to have to toss in the towel and yield to you this week. Explain this meme to the crowd.
So it's free real estate is actually a pretty old meme coming from 2009. a Tim
Dogberry's
and
got
Eric
it.
sketch.
Tim and Eric.
where they did a commercial and called Presidents,
even know
and
Tim or Eric.
the
I just
actors
know
claim
them.
it was a free house for
That one I
every
don't
person
know
is what they
the
were giving
I
out.
feel
And
like
they just
you
said, "Come on,
know
guys,
such a
it's free real
widespread of
estate," right?
memes
And it
that are
became a
based on
meme,
content that
blew
you
up,
know nothing about.
And
So,
it just
yes,
be used. So
I mean,
the
I
meme
have,
in the photo is referring specifically to what
like
Google
a video
Chrome does
graphic
to your
memory.
computer.
So, like,
where your
when
RAM
I
is its
think
free
about
real
something,
estate,
it's like a
and how it
replay,
just
right,
eats
of
away at your
whatever, like, I've
computer's
read
memory.
or
If you
I've
ever want to
watched
know
or
what's
something
slowing down
like
your
that, or
computer,
that's happened in real
do
life.
a little control
So
shift
it's very
escape, open
easy
your
for me to
task
remember
manager,
things like
and you'll
this,
see that
right,
Google
where
Chrome
I've
has
read through a
eaten all
page
of
and I
your
can just
RAM.
picture the page.
Wow.
So.
Learn something. So that was our first ever OK Boomer, OK Zoomer. I'd like to think that they got more entertaining than that as they went.
I certainly have grown a lot on air. I looked so nervous back then.
I mean, let's talk for a second about those nerves. So before we hit the go live button on episode 1, I can probably count on one hand the moments in my life that I was more nervous. Like the sweating, I'm breaking the fourth wall here, probably more than you guys would ever care to know. But I was an absolute wreck. But I wrote a check that my couldn't cash, and I had made promises to Rich. I had pitched him on a concept that I truly believed in, but the moment it was like, hey, there's going to be potentially hundreds of people watching you. Now, don't slip over your words. Don't act like an idiot. Don't expose yourself as someone who knows little about this game, trying to purport as someone who actually knows something. So all of the self-doubt and all of the nerves rushed in right before the light went on. And if you listen to the audio of the first, say, 5 minutes of episode 1, it was me working through some stuff. It was me working through some stuff at the time and trying to find a way to let the show go on and get into the cards. I kept saying to myself, like, just get to the cards. Get to the cards and you won't sound like an idiot. And eventually we got to the cards, and I think we did end up hitting a little stride there once we did. But yeah, I think we got better as we went. But how about you? How were the nerves for you?
I think episode 4 or 5, I think the biggest nerves for me is the first raid, where it was like, whoa, this is an official thing now. And like, we're going to have so many more viewers than before, right? And I was still very uncomfortable on camera, as you could see in the clip. And, man, it was crazy. I am a pretty anxious kind of guy, and the public speaking is never something I've really done before. So even though this is like, it's always been a dream of mine just to try out Twitch and see what it's like. And the fact that I was able, with you carrying everything just to, have an audience and people who consistently come around and talk it's really cool. It's such a cool, unique experience. We need more people streaming out of the park. If you're interested at all, I'd love to, talk to you, help out. There's a really cool community of streamers around too. So, yeah.
Torgonius with a good point that we never quite crossed into the hot tub streamer realm, and that was probably a misstep. But if we could do it all over again,
that's a recent thing. Maybe we'll do a grand finale in the hot tub together. I'll fly out to Chicago.
That might be a little too close for comfort. We'll put that on hold. So another memory lane transition for you here. This was from our Thanksgiving episode. You've got Chris Jardine, the head of the table here, serving the out of the park 21 turkey there, and Ben taking a big drag off a cup of water there, and you can tell this was from winter because I had my Bears cups in rotation, not the Cubs cups that are now part of the summer collection. But yeah, I really appreciated this Swecky meme. This was when Swecky was really starting to stretch his legs and come up with some good stuff.
Shout out to RDT posting the best hot tub stream in the chat. Marine Mammal Rescue is you can go watch like little sea otters and stuff play in a hot tub. So great stream.
Okay. All right. So now in episode 6, we birthed a movement. We birthed a recognition of a profile. I won't do any more on the lead in there. I'll just let you guys watch.
Yeah.
So the thing that I've noticed in this game is this particular profile, heavy on the power and then light on the contact and avoid Ks, really does seem to struggle across it. And I was trying to find a nickname to give that profile, and I didn't really have something hit me until I looked at the ratings from a new angle. And as I saw this, I saw a similarity. It's a bird. This is the bird profile. And you want to avoid the bird profile in this game. It doesn't do well, really, at any level. So if you've got any bird profile cards in your lineup, you might want to take a second look at how well they fit there. I can guarantee you they will not play at the highest levels in the game, Diamond Perfect. So if you've got any birds in those lower levels, figure out how and when you're going to get them out of your lineup. Moving on. And then the bird profile was born and has never relinquished. I'd say the bird is probably our most used emote, and I think that's appropriate because we're seeing birds just about every Thursday, and we got to call them out when we see them. And we've got Bill Mazeroski, 70 rated
absolutely.
card.
It's always fun to see people spam our emotes in Chris's chat when the bird comes up. I mean, so many great emotes. Also, all done by Swecky, right? I mean, the bird one, he drew by hand. I mean, that is a complete hand drawing. It's absolutely crazy he went through to do that for a man that doesn't have any history in graphic design or anything. So,
yeah, and Swecky also designed other emotes as well. The meta emote, my head on a baseball emote, the Babbitt.
That was a few of the original memes actually came. I want to shout out my friend Bill. Your head on a baseball was his idea, and he did a few of the original ones as well with Swecky. They kind of teamed up together.
So that was the birth of all of our emotes, but specifically the bird profile. This was one of my favorite memes because I knew exactly where it was coming from, and I had seen it on my Twitter feed many times over. And I love how Swecky got a really animated picture of you, which perfectly captures the moment here. A very comforting image of me. And then he's just got Jardine chuckling over there at the end of the table as the cat gnawing on a salad. Me just happy to release some cool new cards.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot to do that week. And I look and I see 5 cards in the queue for the week. And I was just like, really? Because back then, I mean, I'll be honest, I probably put less and less effort into as time went on as I better understood what I was doing. But I mean, I would hand transcribe back in the day all the cards that we were given to look at, and write them down in the spreadsheet, transcribe them all, update the spreadsheet, look at them, study them, compare them, and 5 cards is a lot of work for 5 times. So.
Oh, let's not forget our money mustaches as well. So last year, PT21 had, and I think it wasn't called money mustaches. It was called like marvelous mustaches, or there was some alliteration there. Chris was working on, and this was the set that Boggs came in, if I recall correctly. And you and I got into theme. So starting on the Thursday prior, we went to work growing out the facial hair as best we could. And then we show up the next Thursday, and you put me to shame. Look at that little lip shelf you've got rocking there as compared to mine. Mine is barely even discernible. Yours looks fantastic.
I had quite a head start already, and I just shaved off the rest of my face. I think you just straight up tried to grow a mustache in a week. So a little bit of a difference, right?
Yeah, I do better work on the mutton chops. I do better work on the sides here. The mustache just doesn't have that flow, I guess. We'll work on that. Maybe some Miracle Grow can help me out. Maybe a little Rogaine on the upper lip. And then we had a kidney-free turkey day. So kidneys, let me be the first to call out. And people don't realize how crappy you felt on many of our streams, and you did it anyway. Where I'd call you at noon that day and be like, "Hey man, ready for a stream tonight?" And you'd be like, "I think I'm dying. I've never felt worse than I feel right now. There's no way I'm gonna do it." And I'd be like, "Okay, let's not call it now. Let's not call it now. Let's just wait a couple hours, see how you're feeling, and if you're able to go, you go, and if not, that's fine too." And truthfully, I was scared to death. I never wanted to do a show without kidneys because, frankly, I'm the loud, I'm the boisterous, I'm the host, and 99.8% of the insights are coming from the man on the right side of your screen now. And so as I thought about what a show would look like without that man, I shuddered. I shuddered in fear. And there was only one show ever that you had to call off, and you were in real rough shape, and I don't blame you one bit. And that was the toughest show that I ever did. And I definitely missed you that day. That show was worse because you weren't there. But I totally understand why you couldn't come, and it just showed to the community, and it showed to me just the immense value that you bring to the program and how it doesn't really exist without you. And what I did... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You
I was just going to say what I did on that day is I tried to liken cards to Thanksgiving happenings.
Oh, yeah.
Or
yes.
Thanksgiving, things you see at every Thanksgiving. And so I've got a clip to share with you guys here, a little tidbit of that. Next, we've got the drunk uncle. So the drunk uncle's at every Thanksgiving. You know that you're going to eventually get cornered by the drunk uncle. It's totally inescapable. You know that he's a mainstay and part of it, and you can count on it year to year. Count on having to deal with it. And you know that sometimes those interactions with the drunk uncle are the highlight of the day. Sometimes those interactions... Sorry. Sometimes those conversations turn what could otherwise be a dry Thanksgiving, a dry conversation, into something a whole lot more. But other times that conversation with the drunk uncle can be an unmitigated disaster. So we're talking high volatility, high swings of emotion, high pressure, and of course we're talking Rivera and Hoffman here. These guys are your best friend. They are your worst enemy. They will blow 3-run leads against horrible hitters. They will lock down a 1-run lead while going through Cobb, Gwynn, and Triss. You don't know what you're going to get, but you do know that there's going to be 80 plus games a year where you're putting the game into their hands, and what happens from that point is anyone's guess. So we did that for a number of different dishes, for a number of different things at Thanksgiving. It was a fun little bit. I'm sorry that you had to miss it, but
Firebird 1968 says his vote is.
That was Thanksgiving, the one show that I had to do without you.
I remember I wrote little things for you to read about the cards, and I was so close. I almost got you to say the phrase, and I'm going to say it on stream, okay?
Uh-oh.
That a card could not hit the broadside of Walnut's mom. And I almost got you to say it on stream, and you were reading it, and you stopped, and you're like, I can't say that. And I was so close. So close.
Yeah, so sometimes you can catch me in that Ron Burgundy moment, just telepromptering. But that time, I don't know why, but the brain read ahead a couple of lines, and I was able to avoid disaster.
It's DRC.
All right, we move on.
So
We've
good.
got another memory lane transition. Oh, and this one might be in my inner circle of all my favorite memes ever because it's so perfectly captured both the community and Mr. Jardine himself. Release the Build-A Ozzy. Release the Kraken, the Super Ozzy, or draw 25. And there he is with 25 Uno cards in hand saying, not going to happen. Not going to happen in PT21, guys.
I mean, so far it's true for PT22. We were so close, and then he got taken away. So this meme is still accurate, Chris. I'm looking
It's
at
still
you.
accurate. Still accurate. One day, maybe the Aussie will come. Next trip down memory lane was what I'll call the Bronze Apocalypse stream. So we did a stream late in the game cycle where we did a very deep dive on not only the bronze tourney run scoring environment and everything you need to know about it, but specifically the players that you should be playing. And I have never done anything that has earned me so much hatred. So, bronze players aplenty were reaching out to me saying that I had ruined the playing scene, that every team was the same. My own bronze tournament winnings were declining. My win rate went from high fives, almost at 600, down to like 560. It was an unmitigated disaster. I don't know if I'd say that I regret it, but it definitely had a bigger impact than most of the streams that we did. Do you have any regrets for the Bronze Apocalypse stream?
I loved it. I wish we did it again. I know you were very, very intimidated by what the fallout was of the first stream to do it again. I think it's fun, and I think people get that a lot now with Angered Unicorn. Is like the Angered Unicorn effect, right? Is how it creates a meta in tournaments, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think it allows, again, if there's a meta, you can always outplay the meta, right? So
Remember
I think
when
that's-
Unicorn made Jose Vizcaíno worth like 4,000 perfect points one afternoon?
I do, and I think I made Joey Coro worth a lot of perfect points on this stream, and he was never good. It was just a joke, and CFed played him for 3 months, so I pride myself on that achievement.
Yeah, Unicorn is the GOAT in this type of stream. If you don't currently watch him, and I think it's Tuesday mornings that he's rocking and rolling with his Tournament Tuesday, but he is doing this not just for bronze, he's doing this for cap tourneys, silver tourneys, gold tourneys. He is rocking and rolling and likely doing this a whole lot better than we ever did.
Absolutely. Unicorn puts out awesome content, so definitely check him out if you haven't checked him out yet.
Memory lane next trip is the data. The data. So what we had last year was we had a bat similarity score model where every new card we were comparing to all those cards closely compared to it. Within that data table, we had the observed OPS of those comparable cards. And then Kidneys, through his wonderful modeling magic, would spit out what he expected their triple slash line or their FIP to be at the perfect league level. So data was always underpinning this show. It was really what brought us to the show, and I'd say that as the show moved on, we tried to be more of a broadcast and less of a data dive. I'd like to think that we struck the right balance, but data was always at the core of what we tried to bring to the show.
I think up until maybe the past month or so, I mean, I've always been plugging in cards as we get them and, evaluating how they're going to do. And up until I shut down the sheet, that's, been the case. And I think, especially for you and all your observed data work and how you evaluate perfect league and things like that, a lot of times people will give me the feedback. I could go on stream and, I could say blue bar good, red bar bad. And I don't think people have ever realized the amount of time, or a lot of people really have ever realized the amount of time that we ended up putting into a lot of the stuff we ended up spitting out, especially, I would say, kind of at the midpoint of the core of the show, where it was stuff like this, where you were putting hours into making these similarity score tables. And I was, finally learning how to model after failing high school math and doing all sorts of stuff that way. So, yes, the red bar is bad. Yeah, you have it the other way around. So,
yeah, I got to a point this year where I kind of came to a crossroads. There's only so many hours in the day, and producing this show takes however many of them. I'm not looking for any sympathy here, so don't feel like I am. But I came to a crossroads where it was like, okay, I can either do the bat similarity scores, which takes as much time as it does, or I can do the fun facts. And I took a little straw poll. I either did that on the main Discord or DLL. I think it might have been in DLL. And it seemed like most of the people favored the fun facts. And personally, that's what I favored as well. I liked learning about the players themselves. I liked being able to bring a flavor of what those players were, either during their playing career, after their playing career, or a fun moment that defined their playing career. And so I ditched the bat similarity score table and then brought the fun facts, and really never regretted it. I really enjoyed that evolution of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was really fun too. I think also the community has evolved as we have, and there is I don't think you guys need the babying anymore. I think, there's a lot of people who say, hey, you told me about this card and then I played it and it was so much better than I thought it would be. And that's that's helpful stuff. But to spit out tit for tat, I mean, you guys have advanced so much over the course of, the past year, just learning about the game and all that sort of stuff. So I think the fun facts personally are some of my favorite things about the stream. So.
And I think the point you just hit on is so true. I feel like the community is in a much different place now than it was when we started, and I'm not even going to be so bold as to claim any sort of causation for it. But I feel like last year, the data, the Excel spread heads like me were kind of few and far between. Like there was me, there was Sanji, there were other people doing it, some people preferring to remain more anonymous in their data dives. And now the stats and data channel is one of the most active channels out there. And you have people doing things like automating the extract of their tournament results and really taking stuff way beyond where I ever even dreamed to go. And I think that's awesome. And I like to believe that we had a small part in that through encouraging people to move in that direction, through having some tutorials to help people get moving in that direction. But people have gone so far beyond where I ever was that it's definitely not because of us. And I'm so impressed at how people have really mastered this game and really mastered the data collection side of it and the observed statistics side of it. I think that's really cool. That's always how I went. I personally went at problems. I know you went the more modeling route. I went more the observe route, and I think that's why when we put our heads together, work pretty well together. But I think it's just cool to see the community evolution and community education take off so quickly.
Yeah, it's been stats and data channel is probably one of the best things to happen to Discord. If you're not in the main OOTP Discord, get in it. There's so much you can learn from talking to people in there. People are so generous. So
awesome. What's our next memory lane transition? Well, I hope everyone remembers this one because it might just be my favorite. Enjoy. So this is when I actually thought that Swecky was a witch. When he so accurately put your face on the drummer, it freaked me out. One, you drumming on Jardine was hilarious too, and then me bopping ahead on the, I think this is Kauffman Stadium scoreboard. Like, this thing was too much to handle. I couldn't believe it when we got it into the show. I think it's probably the best asset that we have as a show. But kudos to Swecky, and if you had a piece in telling Swecky what you wanted this to look like, kudos to you.
I came to him and I go, can you deep fake this video? This video was all the rage on the internet right now. And I said, can I be the drummer? I want to drum on Jardine, and then DRC is going to be the cat in the background, right? That people had added. And he comes to me, I think the next day, and he has this done with the Royal Stadium monitor and just absolutely incredible.
Swecky the meme god. Unbelievable.
So good.
See you later. Memory lane transition.
Yep.
We did our PT22 holiday wish lists, and would you know it? A lot of these got implemented into the game. So maybe someone was listening. Maybe it was something that a lot of people were requesting. But this was right around the holidays, right around the December time frame. And it was a fun show where we got to not air grievances, but offer up what we thought were constructive criticisms and constructive ways that the game could be moved forward. And as I mentioned, I think a lot of those were put into play. And now have made the game better. So good stuff there. Now, I know one of the gifts that you had asked for was to make live cards great again. So I'll let you be the judge. Did that happen?
No. You know, it's funny. One of the gifts I asked for, it happened, but then it didn't. It's really interesting how things like that happen, you know?
I think Mushroom's got a good point. Austin Hedges. I mean, early on, Araldus Chapman. I mean, these were the guys that people were running main league for the first month.
Yeah, I mean, I ran them till I got my hands on McCarver.
Mike Trout.
Trout not good.
Trout was good. Trout was really good.
No, this was like you when you found out Irv Young was a card in your data and you started playing him in League. No.
Trout was plenty good for the first month because you could train him into the corners. Yeah. And I mean, even like Scherzer and Giolito, like if you didn't want to drop $150K on Brickyard Kennedy, yeah, go ahead and spending 22 on Giolito was the way to go.
I think there's the lower tier live cards are a lot better done this year. I'd still like to see the perfects and the diamonds more rated closely to historical cards, but you know, I'll take the much better lower cards. Like some of the lower cards are much cooler, and the defense seems to be much better weighted. So I am very into that.
Here's a real question for you. How many all-time greats do you think were ever better than how good Jacob deGrom has been over, say, the past 24 months? Like, I think that a lot of people make the argument that, well, you know, you can't compare live cards to historical cards because historical is like all the pantheon of baseball. Like, if you put everyone in the same league at the same time, like the historical cards are going to mop the floor with them. And I think that's true in a lot of cases. But I think when you see something like what we've seen with Jacob deGrom, that is the exception to the rule. And I think I would put deGrom throwing 100 miles an hour with command on the black with movement that just is absolutely ridiculous on his secondaries. Like, I don't know what pitcher all time is really going to blow the doors off Jacob deGrom. I think maybe you could try to equal him, but no one's going to be better than what we've seen with deGrom lately.
I don't think there's a pitcher better than deGrom right now. Like what deGrom's doing right now in baseball, I don't think there's ever been a better run in baseball history. I think the closest are probably Bob Gibson or like Doc Gooden's crazy runs. But what deGrom has done right now and doing it without, you know, foreign substance and doing it against the launch angle revolution has been out of this world. So.
Now, I do think the launch angle revolution cuts both ways. So it increases pitchers' K rates while also subsequently increasing their home run rates. But, you know, you still put it all together, and like Willie McGee, a contact hitter, is going to really struggle against Jacob deGrom just as much as Kyle Schwarber is. So certain things are universal, and being able to hit triple digits and have command of everything, that's pretty much dominant in any era. We move on.
I mean, he's got like the fastest slider and one of the fastest sliders in baseball history, and nobody's even hitting home runs off him this year. So it's like, what are you gonna do, right?
Yep. And I think Dave H 2018, he's got Pedro. Oh no, that wasn't Dave H. That was Mushroom. Pedro,
Yep.
Randy Johnson. Yeah, like guys that just hitters don't have a chance against. Modern, historical. Just when a pitcher is doing what these guys are doing, you do not have a chance.
Yep, absolutely. It's crazy.
At a subsequent show, we did slider do's and don'ts. And it wasn't just a picture of our slider saying, hey, mimic this. But it was rather trying to encourage thoughtful consideration about using the sliders and, frankly, encouragement to use them. I feel like, and this is guilty of some of my in real life friends who play this game. Hopefully they're not listening now as I call them out. But some people just don't touch sliders. It's like, oh, what's pitch around? I had this conversation earlier this week. Oh, wait a minute. I'm supposed to touch my pitch around for my Robin Roberts? It's like, yeah, come on. Welcome to the show. And there's a lot more sliders than that have relevance. And so I thought this was one of our better shows that we did, and perhaps one of our better PSAs for the community.
Yeah, I mean, the sliders, and I think if we had a little bit more time, I would have loved to do them again this year because they are very different. But sliders are so important, especially this year with the renewed sliders that Matt did. It is really a big deal about where your sliders are and what are you doing. So I wouldn't recommend going back and copying what we talked about like completely if you're playing this game. If you're playing 21, still you can go back and look at it. But if not, you can just send me a DM or whatever. So.
All right, our next memory lane transition. This one was one that I didn't really know all that well, but it was one that I enjoyed. Wait, it's all baseball? Always has been, kid.
Well, you actually got the origin of this right, where it was the "Wait, it's all Ohio" meme.
Yeah,
you actually got this one right.
I got it right, but I didn't understand it when I saw it as Ohio. I had just seen it. So similar to how you look at memes of stuff like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and know the meme but don't know the show, I knew the meme but didn't know the origin. But yeah,
I thought I had you for sure on this one.
Moving on. Ooh, so this is when we stepped into this year. So we gave birth to the Bendex. We gave birth to the 10,000 perfect point scavenger hunts, and we gave birth. Wow, why am I saying give birth so frequently? And we gave birth to the multimedia moment. A lot of birthing in the PT22. Ben, the Bendex, it burned hot and it died young like a supernova. Tell us about that.
Yeah, man, the memes of the Bendex changing every week. Really, the Bendex died when the sheet died. It really first died, honestly. I had a revolution making the sheet, and I completely transitioned off of what the Bendex happened about 2 weeks into it. And I kept it running for the show's sake for a little bit, and then I modified it a few times. And in the end, it was a cool concept that I didn't have my model flushed out enough to do it right. So yes, and I do have a Bendex emote, as RDT throws out there. That was highly requested when I was streaming on my own channel. And just for Dogberry, so people are measuring how pitchers are cheating in a stat made up called Bauer units, about spin rate increases and things like that. And DeGrom actually has he hasn't moved at all. Like, there's been no change with him pitching this year to last year to whatever. He's just unhittable because he's DeGrom. So
there is something satisfying about DeGrom going 8 innings, giving up 1 earned run, striking out 14, and either walking away with a no decision or a loss. I got to say that. I hope Rich isn't still listening. There's something satisfying about the lol Mets lolling. Yeah.
It
So
never
the
ceased to
scavenger
amaze.
hunts, I enjoyed the infusion of the scavenger hunts. Hopefully, you guys did too. Frankly, as these evolved, I realized that I couldn't have them born out of Baseball Reference because you guys would get them in 2 seconds. And so, as I tried to diversify where I was getting these from, you guys still got them in 2 seconds. So I never really quite cracked the code on how to have a good scavenger hunt that actually required you guys to go searching for more than 10 seconds. And then
Yeah, I mean, we had the.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say we had the fastest scavenger hunt win ever tonight, where somebody put it in before you were finished talking. That was crazy.
That is a new land speed record. And then the multimedia moment. I enjoyed being able to get some video in here and share some cool moments with you guys. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that too. But I felt like it brought a little bit of fresh air to the overall broadcast and gave a little break and a little excitement.
So I'll say for my parents who don't watch, well, at least my dad did in the beginning. Now he plays the game pretty actively, but especially for my mom who doesn't really know the game, but she watches anyway. She absolutely loves your trivia facts and the multimedia moment and stuff like that because it adds something that a more average person or maybe somebody who just kind of enjoys the game can take a look at and really, learn something about baseball history. And for me too, because I'm young, I don't know that much about baseball history. They've been super fascinating for me. So
yeah, we really did Marty Barrett dirty tonight, but I'm sorry that was all that YouTube had to offer. We move on. Another memory lane transition here. And this one was one that you totally stumped me on. I did not know this meme. I had not seen it before. Now, I've since seen API use this one frequently in Discords that I share with him. I think he's even done it on the main Discord as well, of the actual original guy with this doubt one. But I appreciated this one, and I appreciated Swecky grabbing a picture of me from the mustache stream.
yeah, and I was right about Tony Gwynn, so take that, doubters. He was better than Ty Cobb long term. And, this was back when I was Boomer v. Zoomer champion with the memes coming out from Swecky. Once Swecky stopped really producing memes, I mean, I kind of lost my grip. I was not so great in the season 2 of Boomer v. Zoomer. I think people forget how dominant I was early on, so I will pat myself on the back for that.
I mean, Swecky Ox was your performance-enhancing drug. And I'm glad that everyone sees that now for what it was, because you were roiding and all of those wins have been thrown out of the record book. We move on. Oh, and we relaunched. Yep. OK Boomer, OK Zoomer. And here's what happened here. Here was the origin. I felt like I was running out of things from the 90s to show kidneys. Like, I felt like we had covered so much ground. We had hit movies, we had hit TV, we had hit pop culture, we had hit retail items. And as we were looking at PT22 and planning for a year-long game cycle, I did not think that we'd have the content to keep the show as it was. So that thus spawned the rap battle. I don't think you can call it a rap battle. It's probably closer to a crap battle that you now know as OK Boomer, OK Zoomer. And I think it was a lot of fun. I think it took us a little while to find our footing with it, but I think tonight was a good example of how that's supposed to be done and how fun it can be when it's done right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the second one, I had an actual rap, which was pretty fun.
Oh, that was the one you killed me on. You went like 90-10 on the votes.
I did absolutely kill you on that one. And I should have done that more, but... I'm like I said, I mean, it's the same reason that we are choosing to step away a little bit as, life's kind of caught up to me, right? So not the time I used to have, but man, that was fun writing that rap and getting to showcase my washed up poetry skills.
Hey, they weren't that washed up. They were pretty impressive. 90-10 was the outcome. Ooh, one of the more fun streams that we had this year was when Chris was doing the PTCS community picks. And for anyone who missed it, this is where all of these guys that won PTCS last year for the different practices, different competencies, got to pick cards. And so what we got to do on our show is learn a little bit more about these folks. And so we did 2 truths and a lie for each one of them. And Kidneys, you were the lab rat that had to figure out which one was which there. But it was fun, and it felt like this show has always been about the community. It's always been about the meta. It's always been community supported. And so it felt like a great opportunity, not to give back, but to infuse the community into the overall show and highlight and raise up important members of it. And not saying that those that haven't won PTCS are not important, but I wish as I look back, if there's anything I could have done differently, it would be to find ways to get more stuff like this into the broadcast so that those people that we're chatting with on Discord every day, all day, we learn a little bit more about them, because that was always really fun for me, and one of my missions that I had for this little streamer thing that I was doing, and what was behind the show that I used to do on Tuesdays called Reading Between the Lineups, is to try to unmask, if you will, some of the folks that were part of the community, learn more about what makes them tick, learn more about their experience with the game, and have fun doing so. So I really enjoyed this particular stream and things that were of this ilk. All right, Ben. No response. That's fine.
No, you just said everything. I mean, it was really cool to get to see, a community pick sets, even if J-Ronk didn't get Dontrell Willis. But hey, maybe someday, right?
Maybe someday. Oh my goodness. All right, I am going to set this one up. So this was at the same time maybe the most impressive meme we ever had, and also the most haunting. So using the same magic that Swecky used to put Ben's head on top of the drummer from the video we saw a couple slides ago, he did the same for all of my guests from my interview show. So what you have on your screen here are all folks that were part of my Reading Between the Lineups show that I used to run on Tuesdays, and they were all pieced together for this haunting piece of media you were about to experience. All right, so for anyone who doesn't know, we'll do some intros here. So top left is Walnut, middle top is API, top right is no stranger, that's Mr. Jardine himself, middle left is me, middle is MacJax, middle right is you, bottom left is Pidge, bottom middle is Quanta Condor, and then bottom right is Rich.
Yep. I love this. I love it for a few reasons. MacJax came out so well. It's ridiculous. Like, if you just watch MacJax, it looks so good. And then I don't know why
I was under the impression that
better.
MacJax actually sang this. I thought that was authentic.
No, we actually got Tamura Morrison. Tamura Morrison. If you don't know who that is, that's the guy who played Jango Fett in the Clone Troopers in Star Wars, and he looks like MacJax. That's my opinion. And Quanta's great hair, and so many great flashbacks to Reading Between the Lineups. So
that was a fun one.
Yep.
Yeah, that is haunting though. If anyone was looking to go immediately from here to sleep, I'm sorry, you've just added 2 hours to your countdown. Oh, and we also introduced fabulously fun facts. Now, I never called them that, but I'm calling them that right now because I like alliteration. But of all of the fabulously fun facts that we shared, one of them sticks out. And if Yuka's still in the chat, she'll probably call me out here for picking one of the darker or crazier ones. But this one stuck with me, and as I look back at the Negro Leagues collection, and as I look back at these stories, this is one of those unforgettable moments. So why don't I share with you one of those fun facts from that evening. And we go to Dave Brown. Okay, so like I said, a lot of these profiles were interesting. A lot of them required a second read to be like, wait a minute, did I really just read that? Did that really happen to this guy? Is that really part of this guy's bio? And Dave Brown's might have been the one that I read the most. So Dave Brown in 1925 actually killed a guy in a bar fight. Look at Kidney's reaction. He had teammates there. Teammates were with him. Teammates in this collection set. I can't remember exactly which one.
I was hoping
look
it
it
was
up
this one
afterward.
because this one is.
But he killed a guy in a bar
incredible.
fight, and then decided that he was going to evade the FBI because the FBI was going after him, and he did so successfully. Traveling around the Midwest, continuing to play baseball.
Couldn't stop playing.
Playing baseball under the pseudonym Lefty Wilson. Lefty Wilson. So Dave Brown kills a guy in a bar fight and then runs away from the authorities and continues to play the game that he loved
this whole
in
time.
so
And
doing.
we had no idea what it was referenced.
His teammates
to.
were picked up by the police the next day, the ones that were there.
We found
They're like,
out
hey, I don't
this
know where
night,
Dave
and
Brown
we're like,
is.
wow, that's
Good luck finding
crazy.
him. They were not involved in the
my goodness.
the action, and so they were let free. But Dave Brown, and the thing that I couldn't find anywhere if they ever caught him.
Still on the
But
run.
getting back
this-
to
I love,
Is this
Lowry's
actually why
comment,
he's
was he a
named
lefty
Free Dave
killer?
Brown?
Yes.
Is this the real reason?
couldn't ever find him. And then he goes on to win his Perfect League trophy as a ghost ship. Little known
story.
fact. We need to add that. I don't know if that's disrespectful. We need to add that to the Dave Brown Wikipedia page.
Yep, we do.
In the year of our Lord 2020, Dave Brown was found winning a DLL and Perfect League trophy in successive weeks as a ghost ship manager.
Didn't he? Didn't he get like straight relegated too after that? Like it's just a one-hit wonder thing. It was so ridiculous.
It was 2-hit wonder.
Crazy.
I mean, DLL at that time was like 24 fully built teams.
Yep.
And Dave, he was rocking some bad pitcher as a number 3 starter. Who was it? John Smoltz? I think it was Smoltz. Like, he had a build that had
it was Smoltz.
clear
Yeah.
deficiency. And he still walks through DLL and then walks through Perfect. I remember calling that Perfect League World Series just being like, how? How?
Crazy.
Oh my gosh. That's Dave Brown. Free Dave Brown
Yep.
and Negro League Dave Brown. Ooh, this year we also added card delivery cheekiness. So we didn't just regurgitate them in the order that Chris gave you. We had the week that we did the draft, which just happened to coincide with the NFL draft. We also had the week that we personally ranked them and then averaged our personal ranks and then bubbled that up. I purposefully chose Adrian Beltre here because you hated on him way too much, and he ended up being just about everyone's third baseman until recently. And then
They were all wrong. They're still all wrong.
and then we did the weakest link, which I think ended up being my favorite modality upon which we delivered the cards, and you ended up crowning Andrelton Simmons over Bill Dickey, even though Bill Dickey is absolutely more valuable. But you had that power based on the construct of the game.
So, fun fact, looking back on the set, the strongest card is by far Dallas Keuchel. Both Bill Dickey and Andrelton Simmons are inferior to their better halves. So, I would pick Dallas Keuchel going back to the set.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Mushroom saying Betts is insane too, and I think that I was
He is
not high
nuts.
on Betts, so I think that
No, you
I
were
missed
not.
that one.
And I think Uke's really solid, and you killed Uke early. You crushed Uke.
Oh, I took Uke out. I said, get out of here. Go hang out with Marty Barrett.
Uke's such a fun player to watch.
Yeah, he was. Oh, boy. So I saved the best for last. And I know I keep saying these are all the best, and frankly, they are. Every single one of these is the best. But this one might have gotten the biggest crowd reaction. And this one, I think, might have had me laughing the hardest the first time that I saw it. So everyone, enjoy.
You've got to open more packs. And with the perfect points discount, you get more bang for your buck.
Silence, whale. I do not wish to open packs anymore. I just want to be happy.
I feel like that's going to be me over the next few weeks, you know? I gotta just ease out of it, right?
Silence, whale. I do not want to open packs anymore. I just want to be happy. I'm doing it again. I'm sorry
do it
for all the
You've
people
got to
dying to get
open
out
more
here.
packs. And with the perfect points discount, you get more bang for your buck.
Silence, whale. I do not wish to open packs anymore. I just want to be happy.
Oh my god.
That is probably my favorite meme this year, and so getting to adapt that into Whale King's avatar, famous gambler who cheated, and then Swecky was able to like voice sync his voice, and then the doge you hear at the end is Swecky. So good.
All right, so for Hero Driver 68 and others who don't know the backstory behind this, why don't you start by telling us whose idea this was, either yours or Swecky's, and then fill in the backstory as well.
It's 100% my idea. I cannot give the context behind the meme on the stream. That I cannot break. That would break some rules with Out of the Park, but it's a great meme. It's one of my favorite memes. If you look up probably Silence Dog, you'll find it. It's a good meme. So, yeah, it's just something I thought of last second. I'm like, can we have the dog slicing Whale King? And Swecky's like, I think this one took a while to get right, but he did it, man. So props to him.
Walnut, thank you for the bits in the chat. It looks like he has gone bit bankrupt here tonight, but thank you so much. And I think that he just became Bits Leader 1. Look at that. Not something that we ever really paid all that much attention to. But
he just took down my mother to become the Bits champion.
Wow. Moving on from this excellent memory lane transition. And all that's left tonight, guys, we don't have any more memories. What we have left are thank yous. And the first thank you goes to Rich and Chris. So, as I mentioned at the top here, I ping Rich out of the blue, and I'm like, hey, you got some time? I want to share some ideas with you. And he took the meeting, no idea why, and then pitched him on a couple of different ideas, and this was the idea that we moved on. And Rich was instrumental in socializing this internally, and instrumental in saying, yeah, we'll support this. Yeah, we'll get you guys going. We'll help you guys get moving. And then Chris, as I mentioned before, like, if I'm Chris and there's some random dudes that are like, hey, people want to come on and judge what your work and judge what you're doing here, I don't know that I'm going to be all that open to it. And Chris was. Chris said, yeah, let's do it. This will be fun. This will be cool. Yeah, let's see what they come up with. And that openness and willingness to make himself a little vulnerable made room for the show. And Chris never once didn't hype us or advertise the stream. He would typically mention us at the middle of his stream, at the latter part of his stream, at the end of the stream, and always encourage people to hang around. So huge thank yous to both of them.
Yeah, I mean, none of this gets done without their help. They've been super supportive in so many ways. And just, everybody out of the park, I make a lot of comments about the content and the cards, but I hope everyone knows it's always been with the best intention at heart. I'm just putting numbers into a spreadsheet and telling you what comes out. So it's been really a pleasure to get to do this with you guys. So I know some of you watch, so that's also like super surreal for me. So just thanks for being here and letting us do this.
Next, I want to thank Swecky Ox and RDT. So we've already seen the magic that was Swecky Ox contributions, and he really added a lot of life to the show. I definitely want to call out RDT in that same vein, because as I was flaking out through vacation or other stuff that I had going on, RDT was there, and frankly, RDT wore it better, so to speak. He would come on the stream, he would have contextual bits of feedback about how cards fit into this meta or that meta that I couldn't dream of having, and he really gave continuity and gave improvement to the show where we needed it and when we needed it. So huge thank you to RDT and to you too, Kidneys.
Yeah, and as Nick Waddick puts it, at 3 a.m. nonetheless. Man is a trooper.
Yep.
So I appreciate RDT not letting me fumble around by myself on air. Though I think I did snub Dishnet, who had asked to be on previously when we heard you were taking a vacation. And I totally forgot about it. So shout out to Dish 2 for being willing to step in. So
Wow, cold. I had no idea. And then last and not least, I want to call out everyone who supported. The people that were gifting subs, and frankly, that was the early support of the stream. I think that a lot of people that play out of the park are somewhat foreign to Twitch. And oftentimes, and frankly, this was me. Like, my first foray into Twitch was like, oh, Perfect Team has a stream on Thursdays? Yeah, I'll watch that. I've never watched a Twitch show before, so I'll check that out, see what happens. And there's no such thing as, like, subscribing or supporting the Out of the Park Twitch. And so I think that as people started watching us, there was none of that muscle memory. People didn't know kind of how it worked, and if you liked what someone was doing, how to support them. And people like Mac Jax and Chuck and Wait Till Next Year and Walnut and Crash and API and others that I'm sure I'm missing right now were gifting out subscriptions. They were throwing bits into the chat. They were subscribing. And I think that a lot of other people followed suit. And I think that we wouldn't have been able to get as far as we did without that support. And that support really told us that what we were doing was moving in the right direction, and hopefully we rewarded the community with that trust.
yeah, I mean, you guys have been awesome. It's the reason why I've been able to do this for so long. So it's really cool getting everybody's support and helping out. And yeah, Yuka points out, shout out Dish for modding the channel. I know you didn't really have a lot to do because people here were rather tame, but appreciate that as well. You guys have always been awesome. It's one of the main reasons we can keep doing this and everything. And we've been at it for so long. I mean, 30 weeks is a crazy time. It's always been a super dream of mine to get to do this. And I'm finally gonna let Mother talk on stream, as she has wanted to do for forever. Yes. Hi, Mom.
I just want to say this kid has loved baseball since he found out what it was. And how he became a Red Sox fan, he was 5 years old, and he said, I like the color red. And the next year they won the World Series. And I taught this kid how to play.
She did.
I really did. I was out lobbing tennis balls till he wasn't afraid to catch big high fly balls. And then we switched to rubber balls. And then we switched to the real thing, and soon I couldn't hit him far enough for him.
Mm-hmm.
Love this kid. Thanks for giving him this opportunity.
Round of applause for Kidney's mom.
And I'm up way past my bedtime. Good night.
Whew. That's got me a little choked up. That's got me a little choked up there.
Yeah, and also just totally want to, I mean, she's been so supportive of me and doing this and everything, and kicking her upstairs every Thursday at 9 o'clock so I can have the quiet I need. And shout out to my dad too, because he's, taken up the game recently and he's playing it because, I mean, he's always liked gaming, but, he's doing it to have something to share with me as well. So, it's just been really awesome to have their support behind me with doing this and whatever I'll choose to do next. But it's awesome, so thank you guys, thank them. It's been really, really great. So
yeah, and shout out to Dishnet too. I recognize that I left him off the slide. He's modded the channel since just about day one, and he's always down to help in any way possible. I've definitely picked his brain for streamer 101 tips here and there, and Dish is the gold standard of a renaissance man. Does everything here in the community, and we're better for it.
Absolutely.
Last slide. Date unknown.
Man.
So I don't know if there will be a return to This Week in Perfect Team someday. It won't be next Thursday. Won't be any time in the immediacy. But I'm not going to rule it out either. So we'll kind of see how it goes and where it goes. And who knows? Like, Kidneys and I have done this. Who knows what the community is going to do next? Maybe someone's going to come out with a new stream that's going to be 5 times better than what we did. And that'll be great. Maybe there's a different way to produce the show that doesn't take as many hours as this one does. So, I'm definitely not closing any doors into the future. This is a ton of fun. Like, as I'm trying to get through this, like, it's hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just so people know, if it does surface, right, we have offered for RDT to continue. I don't know what that would look like, and we offered to him late today, so he's got to take his time and come up with that. But this was DRC's baby, and he invited me along for the ride, and I'm so grateful for him for taking me along for this journey. And it's a hard thing to do, but I think the time is right for our chapter of the show, at least, to come to a close.
Well said. Well said. So, Kidneys, you want to hang out in the chat afterward?
Absolutely. I wouldn't miss it. I almost said something I can't say. Yes, I would. I absolutely wouldn't miss it for the world. So we will be in DRC's Discord if somebody wants to do the command for that. For, I guess, the final chat. I don't know how long I'll last before I go cry. But yeah, we will totally be there. So I know it's very late, and we went on for 2.5 hours, and there's still 110 people here. So thank you to all the dedicated people who've been with us for 30 weeks now. It's so surreal. I mean, I've been watching Twitch since 2015 or something, when I was picking up League of Legends and I got into the pro scene, and I was watching esports is all I watched. And then I found some streamers I really liked, with Overwatch starting up and Moon and guys like that. And it's always been such a big inspiration for me. So you will probably see me on my channel at some point streaming something. I don't think it will be out of the park for a while. I'm actually trying to make a run as a Gwent player right now, if anybody knows what that is. So maybe sometime, you'll see a Kidney stream again. And DRC is still doing Sundays, of course. I'm a lot easier to schedule on a weekend, so he will be still doing the Perfect League stream.
All right, guys. That's a wrap.
Mm-hmm.
Peace out.